Starting from car boot sales sourcing products 10 years ago, back when eBay was seen as the online version. Hear how Nigel's business has grown to products that he can sell over and over and has stabilised the idea into a business. Nigel is now looking after a business that turns over £1.5 million per year. Some of this is due to his rapid expansion using cross-border trade. Listen out for his very unusual business tip at the end, when we ask him what one tip he could give another entrepreneur looking to start selling using the marketplaces. Nigel, can you tell us a little bit more about what your business does?
Yeah, hi guys. Yeah, sure. We are an e-commerce toy and board game retailer. So we like the phrase from cot to grave. So anything from a children's toy to a full-on kind of strategic war game, right through to tabletop miniatures, etc. as well. So we encompass entertainment on a toy and board game scale. So.
Okay, so Nigel, how did the business actually start? Because you've got a really interesting story to this, which I didn't know until I asked the question. So how did you get started?
Well, Matt, it kind of goes back really, probably about 12, 13 years ago. We, my wife and I, both avid kind of science fiction and fantasy book readers, and we started going to car boot sales because you can pick up books, were reasonably inexpensive, shall we say, there. So we started doing that, and then my brother started selling his old textbooks on eBay, and was telling me about it, and I thought, oh, that's not a bad idea. So we started buying and selling what we knew, which was obviously books, on eBay. So buying them from car boot sales, second-hand books, and selling them on eBay, and started actually as a bit of a hobby. And then when my wife fell pregnant, we were kind of having a look at ways of where she could generate income from home. And that was just a natural progression. So that was about 10 years ago. So we started operating a small kind of business, buying and selling books and then some games and collectibles from car boot sales. And that was brilliant. She made a nice little living from home, but our life became frenetic, shall we say, and all our weekends were spent, particularly in the summer, going to car boot sales and building up stock, ready for the winter. So that's how it all started, and then we came across the concept of selling brand new stock on eBay, and so we contacted a supplier of board games, because that used to be my hobby. I used to do a lot of board games, but had kind of not done it for several years, and so we started, we listed about 3,000 of their products on eBay. And when we first started, we obviously were not using any e-commerce software. We were just becoming total Excel
gurus, probably, by the sounds of it. Yeah.
Trying to think of a nice word for that. But gurus. And it became absolutely ridiculous. But that is fundamentally how we started, and then we discovered the world of e-commerce, which enabled us a platform to be able to not just to list on eBay, but to list on the likes of Amazon and Play.com, and that's how we started. So in effect, our company, because we went into partnership, because it was part-time and my wife was part-time with a friend of ours who's a fellow director still, and very much part of the business. And the three of us then, well, the two of them that started it, and then I got made redundant from my work in IT, and came on board. So the three of us then, about five and a half years ago, started the company, full on. So, and that's how we really started. So from very small, humble beginnings, really. So.
And you've been running for 10 years now as well.
Well, yes and no. I mean, we started as a partnership, my wife and I, as doing it 10 years ago. But as a full company, I would say probably really in earnest, selling brand new product on a professional level, really probably about 5.5 years ago. So.
Right. Okay.
It's fascinating to hear how, again, that entrepreneurial switch must have been in your head, where you saw the opportunity to make money. You noticed that you were selling, that you could buy at car boot sales relatively good prices, and you could see you could sell them for profit, and that sort of gets into this entrepreneur mindset. And it's just so interesting to see how you scaled it to a whole different level.
It does. The wonderful thing, I used to call it the psychology of green, because there was never any really buy it now on eBay when I first started. It was all auction. And of course, you'd see it, you start price at 99p, and as soon as you get a bid, the bid goes from red to green. And there was no feeling like it in the world. It was a lovely feeling to see it go from red to green. And you get and I sort of called it, selling on eBay was the psychology of green. And, and very much trial and error, because the wonderful thing about buying and selling from a car boot seller is you get it really cheap. You don't, if it doesn't sell, you really haven't lost a lot. But I remember to this day was a set of books by Philip Joseph Farmer, and it was only, and I bought them for £1 or £1.50, and I sold them on eBay for 35 quid. And it was just like, oh my God, and then you start working out the percentages of it as well. So
yeah, some crazy profit margins there.
Yeah, absolutely. But of course, you'd never be able to buy that again. That's the downside of it, is that once you've put all the effort to making that, yeah, good profit margin, but not enough of it. If you see
not recurring, it's a one-off.
Exactly. So that was the ethos behind moving away from, to move into selling brand new stock, because if you can manage it and you keep selling it, then it's recurring income stream, isn't it?
Indeed. So one of the most obvious questions is, do you still sell books?
No, we do a little bit, but mostly we don't sell your general fiction. We do a little bit of the fantasy range, because that's one of our things our supplier does. But we also started doing graphic novels, but that's a really cutthroat market. Books is a massively cutthroat market. It's incredibly competitive. It's more competitive than a lot of businesses out there. And we, when we say books, and you'll see your books on our website and on Amazon, it's very much on the role playing, which filters very nicely into obviously the gaming market. So it's role playing games, books, that sort of stuff that we sell. But the fiction market and the non-fiction market is just, and obviously with the advent of Kindle, I started, some of my old books. I like to keep, it's a little bit of a hobby. I like to keep going a little bit on eBay and a little bit of, selling, and I tried it a year and a half ago just to kind of see what it was like in the marketplace, and it was dead. I was hardly selling any of that second-hand book market. It is literally, pretty much a dead horse, I think so.
Yeah, I've seen how those guys work, and they're literally emptying libraries, and they're having 40-foot lorries turn up in their yards every morning. And the whole recycling process is that they'll just scan it, and if they can't make profit, it goes straight in the bin. And they sell it by the ton as well. It's quite an insight into that.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, no, you can't make money doing it. So.
Okay, so changing the subject slightly, when we spoke a couple of days ago, you mentioned that you actually sell products all over the world now. Can you tell us more about cross-border trade and what it means to you and your business, and what tools do you use to make your life easier?
Well, Matt, the world of e-commerce, and no matter what, we obviously started using eSeller Pro when we first started, which allowed us to sell on multi-channels. Mm-hmm. If you asked me, over 5.5 years ago when I was working in the world of IT, that within 3 years you'd get excited about selling buying a cardboard box for things to go in, or cross-border selling, or that 45% of your revenue would be international sales, I would have just gone, well, you're nuts, because I can't ever see that happening. And the power that e-commerce gives you, and in fairness to them, I mean, they've got a lot of bad press, but in fairness to them, Amazon has created that market space for us, because we're obviously able very easily via our e-commerce tool to list on Amazon. And that doesn't come without its trials and tribulations, and you have to manage it. But that's really where initially our revenue was coming from. So, selling on Amazon, Germany and France and the US and Spain, for example, has created this, wonderful income stream, on international selling. And recently, we have now moved with eBay into cross-border selling as well, with the help of a company called WebInterpret, who are a partner of eBay.
Yeah, they had a trial, didn't they, as well, which you used?
Yeah, they did. So we took that trial, which was a 3-month trial, and they then demonstrated how quickly they could list our product, particularly easily on the likes of where there's no translation problems on Australia and America. And that has obviously, again, boosted our cross-border selling. I wouldn't say it's as powerful as Amazon, but it certainly generated, a nice income stream that we never had. So, yeah, so that trial was quite successful, and eBay were brilliant in terms of supporting that, and that trial continued as well. So that's really pretty much a combination of e-commerce via multi-channel tool and through eBay with WebInterpret, which again, in fairness, incorporates into our multi-channel tool. It's not something outside of that. Everything is driven through our e-commerce tool, really. So, and they automatically integrate with that as well. So that's pretty much, and currently now, through the year, generally our international sales is about 45% of our business. So, because what people have got to remember, Matt, and I don't know whether you come across this yourselves, is that, the UK is actually one of the most advanced e-commerce retails in the world. You've got the US and you've got the UK and probably maybe Japan as well. And a lot of other countries, Germany's obviously fast catching up, and France, but a lot of other countries, they have nowhere near the products being sold on their internet as they got over here. So a lot of people will look to the UK because they know it's established and they know that our professional sellers out there. So they automatically get migrated to the UK into which to purchase. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a curious one. I don't know if you knew this, but eBay Germany was actually bigger than eBay UK.
Yes.
And combined Europe is bigger. I think this is right. I may be wrong, but as far as I'm aware, that Europe was bigger or as big as the United States.
Correct. Yes.
So that gives us a lot of weight from the other side of the pond on there. But also, I was chatting to Chris Dawson a couple of weeks back, and eBay had released some stats about the users and page views and whatnot. And Chris had reversed engineered it, and I think this was we did a webinar about the new eBay for the new eBay homepage, which they were doing. And Chris brought it up in there, where was the UK is the most highly penetrated country for eBay for customers or potential customers, people registering and actually viewing on the actual site as well. But for actual transactional volumes, is that eBay Germany is bigger than the UK. So just following the multiple streams which you've got on that going with your business, is that you're not reliant upon one specific revenue stream, are you? You're truly multi-channel. You've got fingers in lots of different markets. So if one was lost, you've got some risk control, I presume, on there.
Absolutely. I think people have a dim view of certain channels, Amazon being one of them. But what people have got to realise, what we found is that you shouldn't be scared to expand into new areas, and you shouldn't be scared to try. I've got to admit, when I first started selling on Amazon America, I was like, concerned. My God, what's going to happen? I mean, how I'm going to manage it, how am I going to fulfill it? But you grow and you learn all the time by pushing out your boundaries and trying new avenues. But more importantly, as with anything in business, it's an income stream, and what you'll find is, particularly selling on Amazon, is that you don't want to put your eggs in one basket simply for the fact that the way Amazon are set up. The big daddy's watching, and if you put your foot wrong, you can be penalised for that. And we had an inventory error not a couple of months ago on our biggest one, which is Amazon UK, where we found ourselves suspended for 5 days, and that cost us, between 5 and 10 grand, in terms of revenue. Now, it was sorted and it was an error, and they apologised and we moved on. But if that all I did was rely upon Amazon UK, well, I would have had no income whatsoever during that period. And the problem with e-commerce, unless it's via your own website, you're in complete control. Something somewhere, there is a risk factor to be had in e-commerce selling on a marketing platform, and whether that's eBay. So, for example, now my guys, unbeknown, we're listing away on a gift range, and we started listing penknives. Now, they obviously forgot about selling knives and dangerous things on eBay, and we had a policy violation. Now, imagine that 20 products like that, and and somebody made a mistake and listed on it. Well, eBay are not going to care. They're going to say, "Well, I'm sorry, but tough. You're suspended." So I think that's a big danger that companies face when selling on e-commerce. Be aware of the rules that, whether it's Amazon in terms of setting metrics around your late shipment, or whether it's Amazon whether it's eBay in terms of selling banned products that you're not allowed to sell, like knives, for example, that might seem quite innocent because it's just a gift, or you've got to be so careful. So it's not just about managing income streams and providing extra revenue. You're actually protecting yourself against any eventuality so that you're still in business. We're now currently investing some money in terms of our own website, and that's important for us, because if Amazon, God forbid, and I don't think they ever will, because we've now established ourselves as a very trustworthy seller and a very high profile seller, turned around and suspended us because we happen to have another inventory error, that we are not purely reliant upon that. And that's what it gives you. Not only does it give you extra growth and international marketplace, but it spreads the risk. Because there is a risk, no matter what you do. A friend of mine recently, was selling on eBay, and he's been suspended because, he wasn't delivering in time. He's trying to create his business. And you've got to admit that risk, and you've got to spread that risk, and that's the risk in selling on multiple e-commerce channels that are not your own.
So it almost gives you a safety net of sorts by spreading the risk.
Correct.
A quick question on that, Nigel, is obviously a lot of businesses that I've spoke with in the past look at cross-border trade with a bit of skepticism, purely because of the complications with setting it up, having bank accounts in Europe or over in the States, and the currency, dilemma that can go on. Would you say it's a worthwhile venture to get those things in order and do it because the benefits outweigh, setting it up in the first place?
Yes. For all board game and toy resellers out there, no, don't do it. It's terrible. It's fraught with dangers, and you lose loads of money. For everybody else, it's a fantastic idea, and they should pursue that right now. Yes. Look, again, we sat here with our accountant, and we had a minus 10 grand on our balance sheet, and we said, "What is this?" He said, "That's how much money you're losing in currency conversion." And we went, "Really?" Now, we weren't really losing that money because we factored in the exchange rate when we set our pricing. So, for example, if we knew the exchange for the euro was 1.6, we would build into our pricing metric, to go at 1.65 or 1.7. So we knew that was the margin, and we were safe in that as well. So, and equally, if it comes down, we can factor that in. But equally, we went, well, hold on a minute. If we can get a far better exchange, then we can reduce that and make more margin. Kind of, as I say, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, I got excited by our first ever packing box. Now you're learning something new in terms of how to manage, your currency conversion. And we bank with Barclays Bank, and who probably have the best, small business team that we've seen currently out there. And if you've got a good relationship with your account manager, and we've got a good relationship with ours, you've got to shop around, and you've got to look at what's the best conversion rate you possibly can. And, the biggest barrier is postage, and you've got to look, and you've got to learn. There is no off the shelf, oh, this is how you do it. We've learned through experience. We've learned through having to do it right from the beginning. We first started shipping abroad, Royal Mail, Airmail, and then you started getting bigger, and you start, well, is there a better solution? And speak to Royal Mail, and you speak to your suppliers, and you look around. And a lot of people block off phone calls because people are trying to sell themselves, and you get to know whatever. I never do. I never, ever, if anybody reps are listening to this, I never answer the phone. But no, seriously. You never know what the next phone call is going. Listen. There are some people who are complete time wasters. You can get rid of them really, really quickly. But at our stage of the growth of what we do, it is really quite interesting to take a phone call from somebody who's trying to sell you something. This happened not so long ago. I got a phone call from the Dutch Royal Mail. Okay, the Dutch Royal Mail, Spring Global, they were, or still are. And I got a phone call, and he said, and if somebody says I can make you 5% savings, I don't want to know, because there's too much pain in transition from one thing to another one, and a 5% savings is probably not worth it. But he said to me quite boldly, I can save you on your international mail from Royal Mail 10 to 15%. Well, that is worth having a conversation because of the volumes that we do. And he came in and we talked to us and we did the numbers and we crunched the numbers. And actually, yeah, we're now saving on average, in terms of our European airmail, about 12.5%. And the same for the US as well. And we don't use Royal Mail for international mail. We use Spring Global. So if I had not taken that phone call, my business would not be enhanced and my profit margins, would have increased slightly. So it's always worth kind of doing that. And you've got to learn. You have to learn. We're learning now about exchange rates and what's the best exchange rate and who does this and who does that. And, so it is fraud, but there are companies and services out there that is able to facilitate what you need to do. So, there are companies out there that sell on Amazon. You need to have, on particular Amazon sites, you need to have a European account. There are companies out there, Currencies Direct that we use, for example, that will help you facilitate that. There is the only barrier for you doing something is in your own mind.
Mm-hmm. That's just an entrepreneur. In a nutshell, just changing the subject slightly, we were told, no, that's not possible a couple of days ago by a company, and that's just like a red flag to a ball. Of course it's possible. Anything's possible. And of course we're going to go and find a way, because we have to find a way. It's not going to work if we don't find a way. So, yeah, I love the spirit for that. Okay, so just change the subject slightly. You've just started using Magento, and you've literally, within the last couple of weeks, migrated your site from another platform to Magento. How have you found that?
Well, my consultant is going to be the biggest pain in the backside for the next 2 years, and he's going to be so smug that, and I was just typing this because I said, Tim is going to be the smuggest person on the block. Because when he first joined us, and I don't mind saying, we signed up to an eSeller Pro website, and we started looking for an SEO consultant. He came in, bizarrely, he'd used eSeller in the past when he had his own business. And he said to us then, he said, you've got to ditch eSeller now, not eSellers in the tool, but in terms of the website. Ditch it now, move on. And we said, well, sorry, mate, we just spent $5,000. We're not ditching this. Do you know what I mean? We're going to try and make it work. We've just invested all the time and effort before you come along. And he said, okay, well, I'll do what I can for you. And then again, he came back. He said, this is what the problem was. You need to move to Magento. And we were going, yeah, but, eSeller doesn't work with Magento. It supposedly does, but never does, because we've had, other people who we've spoken to. And he said, you're going to struggle. And we were going, yeah, we'll make it work. And we just it was like swimming, upriver in a river full of tar. It was that. It was like that. It was hard work, and he was pulling his hair out, in fact. And this year he came and he showed us, what the problem we have with SEO. And he said, look, you have to move. We said, well, look, we don't have a budget of £10,000, $15,000, whatever it's going to cost, to swap. And he said, well, we'll carry on. And then, in fairness to eSeller, my account manager put me on to this really great guy called Matthew Ogborn.
Love the plug.
I've got to be careful with him. I've heard about him.
Yeah, he apparently is a bit dodgy, but anyway, but who has a working connector between the two. So we obviously contact Matt, and Matt said, yeah, not a problem, easy peasy. Okay, but what about Magento? Magento puts on the Design Hub. Who are an Indian company who, could do us a Magento site for less than £2,000. So literally, with less than $5,000, we could get a Magento site. So we went, yeah, we can do that. That's not a problem. And we launched. I mean, in fairness, Design Hub are good, but they're very slow because of the distance between the countries. But we've got there. It's taken us And in fairness to them, there's a lot of design going back between us.
Yeah, I saw every single email. Which
I bet you did. Yes, it's been but we got there, and we launched finally 2 weeks ago. Well, not even that. We launched 10 days ago on Magento with our website, and I was doing some figures the other day. Literally, and the other thing is the ease that Magento integrates with things like Google Shopping and so forth. And I mean, oh my God, you can just see the difference in terms of traffic, in terms of searches, in terms of conversion, because we integrated it into SagePay immediate. And we've only been going properly, to be honest with you. We launched properly. We launched on Monday last week. We really got going because of indexing and stuff, probably on the Wednesday, and we find out some issues already. But already SEO up by 60%, revenue and conversion up enormously. And all right, it's a good time of year for us, admittedly, but the signs, I mean, in terms of the back end and using it and its integration and just the ease of use in what it gives you and the platform that Magento gives you, and I am slightly IT literate, in terms of being a super user of things, but it just is terrific. I've got to say, and I know, touch wood, carry on doing that, but my initial impressions, I'm sorry to say, but if you've ridden a pony and the next thing you're an Arab, then a horse, then there's a massive difference. You can see that, can't you?
It's quite a
maybe
difference.
That's a bad analogy. Maybe driving a Renault Clio or suddenly driving a Ferrari, you notice a difference. So
okay, 2 other questions we got for you. The first one was that you're using Simple Servers for the hosting. Yes. For your Magento site. And again, it's the company which we worked with, and I think I suggested them to you as well originally. So how have you found them so far?
Well, I guide myself by a company. All companies are when you first sign up, are really good. The sign of a real good company is how quickly they sort your problems out. Anybody can put a bunch of disks up there, JBOD up there, and say, yeah, I've got this service, away you go. But I was really impressed when I first signed up in terms of their help and support. But recently, now that we've just gone live, there's obviously, there's bound to be issues that we've had. And I kid you not, one of my suppliers, Feed Optimize, who do Google Shopping, they came to me and said, well, we can get you back on Google Shopping now, we need Feed. He raised a ticket without me knowing. I got an email response to that ticket. I Skyped him and say, you've just raised a ticket. Yeah, I just raised it. Here's your answer. And he went, oh my God, do you know what I mean? And this guy's been about, they know this stuff. He was just like, right, well, I'll get that done then. It was almost speechless, in terms of how quick they are. Now, and I've raised a couple of other tickets as well that we ran out of disk space. Now, they could have just shut that down, but they didn't. They automatically said, pretended the invoice was paid, upgraded us automatically, and, we sorted it out so that, our website wouldn't go down. So, I can't say, I mean, it's really frustrating sometimes when we're working with a company and you raise a ticket on issue and, it could be disappear for days, and then you'll get a response down there. But with them, I think they've tuned into the fact that this is really near to online support because of how critical it is. You don't want your server going down. And I got to say that you have to be, when you host your own server, you have to know it's going to be looked after. And I have that feeling. I've spoken to them once or twice in terms of when we first sailed, but I have that feeling of complete security that I'm in safe hands just by the sheer speed at which they reply to your tickets. I mean, I've never experienced anything like it, and that's not just with a hosting company, but with any company I've dealt with. How quickly they get back to you. So
yeah, I actually spoke to Simon from Simple Service and said, I was chatting to Nigel, and he was really impressed by your the ticket response times. And he said, well, one of them was about 18 minutes, and I'm just looking down the support queue, and the other one was about 6 minutes.
Yeah,
and there were some other ones in there as well.
Yeah,
so,
unreal.
Which is unreal.
They must be there in onesies and sleeping bags, sucking on lollipops, waiting,
24/7,
24/7, absolutely. Shall we nickname them the Simply Onesie Crew? But yeah.
Indeed.
So I just popped in my head. I do apologise to the very professional staff at Simply Service.
So what one tip would you give to somebody who's listening to this right now, who wants to start and selling online?
This is not an answer you probably expect, but watch The Apprentice.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Watch it.
That's an interesting one.
I'll tell you something now, right? Because people like myself can spout off to you this, that, and whatever. But what you'll find is when you're starting your business, if you watch something like The Apprentice, it doesn't have to be The Apprentice, but I really like The Apprentice, because you always think you can do better. But more importantly, there comes when you watch, particularly at the end, and the way Alan Sugar says something, and this guy knows what he's talking about. There are little pearls of wisdoms in there that you will not believe. That once you run your business, you kind of know, and a couple of those have always stuck with me in terms of, and I drive the guys in the office potty because I quote them every now and again, but there are real pearls in there, and you'll see it when people like at the end of The Apprentice when they're writing their business plan, and you can see him going like his eyes go up the head and whatever, and he says, why are you submitting this business plan? You know nothing about this market whatsoever. You're just plucking an idea you think you might have and throwing some random facts in that you think might happen, whereas you don't know. And he gets really frustrated by, people who he's seen developing through, and they come out and they've got expertise or knowledge about a certain way of doing things or a certain product line. They know what they know. And they put a business plan. There is a million miles away from things that they know. And we started selling books on eBay. Why? Because we knew who the authors were. We knew what the value is because we would buy or sell them ourselves. And we knew that market because we had a passion for it. And we also then, when we started selling games, we knew that market because I knew about board games. That's what my hobby. I knew about them. So don't get me wrong, I didn't know that much, but I knew enough to go through. So the fact is that Little Pearl has come out on that because if you know something or you have a passion for something, use that. Start selling what you know and what you have a passion about, because that is absolutely critical. If you start selling something that you think might be a gap in the market, but you don't really know it, yeah, you could succeed, but generally you'll come unstuck. The other thing is that if you are going to sell online, okay, and you want to make a proper company of it, you need critically the IT systems in order to support you. Because our first Christmas, we were up to wee hours of the morning copying and pasting orders from eBay, into a spreadsheet because we had to keep it. It was just soul destroying, absolutely soul destroying. And you need, if you are going to sell online, and whoever's listening to this, you could be a shop owner and you think to yourself, I know I've got that stock on the shelf, I'm going to stick it on eBay and I know I've got it in stock. Fine, great. You fail. You will fail without the IT systems in order to support you. And you will also fail if you don't treat it like its own separate business. There's 4 people in our business. There's 3 directors and the business. And it's really critical that you treat your business like a person. We've always done that, and it's been successful. Yes, we could do this, but is it right for the business? Does the business need it? What does the business need? And I think it's really important that you treat it like this works for us anyway. It might not work for everybody, but if you are thinking of selling online as a proper business, you need the IT systems that you want to do. And say people, I've heard horror stories. They go out and they buy 30 grand's worth of stock, and then they try to sell it. Don't do that. Not say whatever you do, don't do that. You're nuts. You start off buying X amount of stock, or like we did in terms of trying to do something virtual, but you really can't do it, as we found, because you end up with a lot of stocks, a bad reputation. If you're going to start off with just in time, then you need IT systems in order to do that, because you will come an absolute cropper, because suddenly things are out of stock at the supplier and you can't supply it, and you get a bad reputation, and and etc. You'll never get it 100% using the method that we use. And don't get me wrong, we've switched. We're not 100%, just in time or virtualization, you call it. We've built up a stock portfolio. But when you're turning over, we've now grown in 5 years to, I think this year we're hoping to do between 1.5 million is what our target is. and we're left with less than £100,000 worth of stock, probably around less than that, then you've got to be doing something right. So things like watching and reading, small business, books is really, really good. But watching little things like that, not only because you see, people like, The Apprentice, because you pick up little pearls. You might think it's tongue in cheek, but I tell you what, I see things, and I also watch like Dragon's Den, and I think to myself, and I see, similar companies that have gone in there and other things that went, and you hear what they're doing, and you think, actually, do you know what? We're doing something right here, and it's actually a bit of a confidence boost, but equally you'll pick up little jewels as well, and I wind them up by, sell, smell what sells, and little things like that, and it gives you a bit of confidence and you're doing things right. So, importantly, never be frightened of learning, get some IT systems behind you, because e-commerce is all about IT. It's all about IT.
And Nigel, just to jump in there, one daft question is that could you run your business today without software in the background?
Absolutely not. No, never, ever. Well, you could, but you'd turn over 30 grand a year.
Yeah, you wouldn't be at the scale that you're at now.
No, it's not scalable. Without IT software, without an e-commerce platform, it is not scalable. That's exactly right, chaps.
Fantastic. Nigel, let's leave it there.
Thank you very much, guys.
A big thank you to Nigel for joining us and also for sharing his story not only with us but also with you too. And on that note, if you would like to join us and share your story too, then get in touch and you can reach us directly at support@understandinge.com, and we look forward to hearing from you. And from myself, Dave, and of course Nigel, thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheerio!